What gets you excited? 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 33 of the Showerpodcast, the podcast where I'm in somebody's shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and let me explain. I'm currently in Rome, and as much as I've tried, the only way to stick to this and to make it as a daily task is to end up doing this. For the ones that, let's say, we're here since episode 1, I said that this was a possibility, and here we are. The beauty of this format is that, well, wherever I am in the world, I will be able to find a bathroom and, well, shower where to record. And with a bit of inventivity and, fiddling around, I am able to build something decent. Of course, I am already sorry for the huge echo that it's present in this room. I will try to speak, let's say, pretty close to the microphone and make it look and sound as good as possible, but I can't promise much. The control that I have here is definitely way lower compared to the one that I had at home. Also, the light is not the best, but if I turn on the other light, there's going to be a constant, let's say, background sound that will compromise furthermore the sound. So, having said that, and having said sorry for all the technical problems, let's get to, let's say, the core of the episode. What's your greatest pleasure? This comes from, let's say, a discussion that I was having last night with my friends. I met up with them in Rome, and one of them asked, how would you rank these 3 pleasures? And the pleasures were eating, sleeping, and having sex. And let's say that I would like to not necessarily rank them myself, even though that would be eating, having sex, and sleeping. I would like to argument a bit about all of them, and maybe in general, let's say, understand what makes pleasure a pleasure, or at least what I've heard also them say. So for the biggest one, and there, let's say that it was pretty self-explanatory, but also there I will be able maybe to expand on it. For me, it's eating. Like, it's absolutely impossible to, let's say, get to that level of pleasure when done right. And I think it also comes from a point where let's say I didn't have necessarily too much the chance, even though growing in Italy, it was already very high up there, to try all and every kind of food, or at least I was, let's say, relatively limited by the choice that I had at home in more or less Italian restaurants. And I think the most extravagant things that I tried here was, let's say, Japanese restaurants with sushi and all of that. But those were more or less the choices. And if you think about all the possibilities that you have around the world, or all the, let's say, the tastes, the preparations, the vision that you can have from a kitchen, from a professional kitchen, and that gets brought to you on a table, wow, it's amazing. And it was also backed up by the fact that yesterday, I think I had one of the best lunches of my life. The service, the wine, the food was just unparalleled. Like, it was too good to be true. It was insane. So yeah, easily my number 1. But it wasn't the number 1 for my girlfriend, because she, for example, worked in hospitality. She has always been, let's say, around food, and also high-end food. So for her, even though she enjoys very much, let's say, dining in and, let's say, food in general, at the same time, as a pleasure, it wasn't her number 1. On the other hand, moving, let's say, to, let's say, sleeping, also there it was, everybody had a different perception. For me and a friend of mine was easily number 3, because as much as, it's something that we have to do, we easily argumented that if it was possible not to have it, so if you would be able to sleep, for example, 2 hours a night or even 0, nobody, I think, most people wouldn't be interested in sleeping, because again, it's a loss of time, even though again, the benefits that it brings are insane for a normal human being in a normal circumstance. But in the what if of you don't need to have sleep, it's unbeatable. On the other hand, for, let's say, coming back to reality, the moment and the days that you need to sleep, that activity will feel as the best pleasure of your life, like the sensation of going to sleep when you're absolutely destroyed and waking up rested. That kind of relaxation, again, it's pretty hard to beat, but still, food, number 1. For sex, it was also there, let's say, a bit of a discussion, because there was made the argument, I also need to agree a bit there, that strictly as a pleasure, that kind of sensation you just get with sex. It's absolutely, let's say, unparalleled. It's unique, and for sure, even though you might look for it in other activities, it's something that absolutely, let's say, gets to you. But also there, it depends on the quality, it depends if you have a stable partner, it depends what to look for when you have sex, because myself and also the same friend that I agreed on with sleeping, we said that it's not so much the activity itself than the connection and, let's say, everything that leads to that moment, or at least the chemistry that you have with your stable partner, if you have one. So what I liked is that, again, even though there is a clear definition of pleasure, I haven't looked it up actually, but I will. And I will let you know in the next episode. But it's always connected to, let's say, something that is personal and doesn't necessarily correlate with, it always correlates with a strictly personal experience that ranks, let's say, the certain activity based on what you have experienced with it. And that again reflects topics and discussions that we had also in previous episodes, where as much as you would like to give a, let's say, a definitive answer and be able to give a clear, let's say, winner, or, make an argument for something, there will always be somebody else that had a different experience from yours and will be able to, let's say, subvert your statement. Will it make your statement not valid? Absolutely not. It will still be valid. But at the same time, you, let's say, won't be able to keep that argument for forever. The last bit, if we have time, we have. I'll be done in a few minutes. But the last bit that we discussed, for example, most people at the table were smokers. And we were discussing also the fact that for some of them, it was ranked pretty high up, or at least higher than sleeping. And, as much as we talked about these kind of pleasures, we always need to remember that they can also become addictions. And then the connection that the mind makes between the activity and the pleasure you get from it, it gets completely distorted from the kind of, reasoning that you have on a normal basis with the activity. And from that moment on, any kind of activity can become your guilty pleasure. And maybe that's why we invented that kind of term. Because again, you can be going in any direction. It can be going out, it can be gaming, it can be, let's say, on a more serious level, it can be drugs, it can be serious addiction. Sex can be a very severe addiction. So we also always need to be careful, like what's the distance between pleasure an addiction. And I think that in general we should always strive to, first of all, have several pleasures if possible in our life, because that makes it easier to avoid us being addicted to just one of them, and let's say sticking to that just because there is a toxic connection in your mind between the activity and your perception again of pleasure. Well, this was interesting. I really hope that the audio is good enough and that you've been able to enjoy this. This was episode 33 of the Shower Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and see you at the next one. But before I do, I need to do the outro in a, let's say, unconventional way, so I'll have to stand up again.